Greetings, Helldivers! All of you really liked my last video where I showed you some of my favorite loadouts in the game. So I decided to do a follow-up video since I have a lot of great loadouts on my mind. Thus, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, a really important detail. In the last video, I've divided my loadouts in between the factions that it is best to use them. However, in this video, all of the loadouts that I'm going to show you, I personally think work pretty good on each faction. So today's loadouts are pretty universal. The first loadout is based around the Hazmaster gas-resistant medium armor, which means that in this loadout we are going to use gas really heavily. Now, the primary weapon for this loadout will be Punisher Plasma. In my experience, this weapon is really good against all three factions. It has a lot of damage, it has a really good crowd control capabilities, and it is just plain really fun to use. As for the secondary, all of the loadouts that I'm going to talk about today will probably share Ultimatum, because Ultimatum is the ultimate, pun intended, dedicated anti-tank weapon. For this loadout, our grenade will be a gas grenade. It is really good at confusing your enemies, it can close fabricators, it can close bug holes. It is a really powerful tool in your arsenal, no matter the faction that you are fighting against. Now let's talk about stratagems. Since we are gas maxing, the first stratagem that we are gonna take with us will be an orbital gas strike. Now, I'm a huge fan of orbital gas strike because it is basically a huge gas grenade, and I love gas grenades. It stops a huge amounts of your enemies in their tracks, confuses them, and lets you do literally anything that you desire. And since we are wearing an 80% gas resistant armor, it basically means that we can run in between them in a gas cloud, cut them, shoot them, blow them up. The possibilities are endless, and again, it works on all three fronts. The next stratagem that we pick will of course be the spear gun. For me, spear gun is basically a variation of railgun, which I also really love. It has a tremendous amount of damage, and it can one-shot a lot of bigger units like War Strider or Hulks. To raise the level of enemy confusion to its absolute maximum, next stratagem that we pick will be Dog Breath Guard Dog. With this set of tools, you can basically prevent any enemy from getting really close to you. Now, to seal off this beautiful loadout, let's pick something that is outside of the gas realm, however something that also reinforces our gas. And for me, that would be Eagle Napalm Strike. Cover your enemies in gas and then set them on fire. As for the booster, pick whatever you like. For me, it's usually something out of the big three. Now, I did a full video on a complete gas loadout, so before using this loadout yourself, you can watch the video first. Just as a previous loadout was themed around gas, this loadout will be mostly based around electricity. And to start off, we choose the electrical resistance medium armor, which provides 95% resistance to arc damage. It doesn't make you fully invincible against electricity, but it makes you approach it really close. The primary weapon for this loadout is Arc 12 Blitzer, which in my experience proves itself to be really useful across all three fronts. Some people will tell you that it's not that good on the automaton front, and there is some ground behind that. However, it is a question of what you are using as your secondary and your support weapon. Blitzer does extremely well against the light units and the medium units like Devastators, Striders. For all the bigger stuff like Hulks, War Striders, Factory Striders, and Vox engines, of course it will not be a good option. That's why you have your secondary, that's why you have your throwable, that's why you have your support weapon, and that's why you have your stratagems. Your primary weapon doesn't have to be a jack of all trades. We keep Ultimatum as a secondary for this loadout as well. Now, for a grenade, I'm choosing my recent discovery, which is G34 Arc. It is an amazing grenade. It is really good on the bug front and on the squid front, clearing large volumes of enemies. However, unfortunately, it does not have a utility function. It is a strictly anti-infantry grenade, and it does its job really good. Now, this entire loadout, in my mind, is based around Tesla Tower. I just throw this thing in the middle of the fight, lay down beneath it, and just enjoy the show, simultaneously assisting the Tesla Tower arcs with the shots of my Arc Blitzer. It is a surprisingly effective combination. However, obviously you should always keep in mind that you are playing with other people and most of the stuff in your arsenal will one-shot them. So you should use all that with caution to not get kicked from the party. Next we take Supply Pack. Supply Pack is a universal stratagem and it brings huge benefits to any loadout that you will choose to use. However, in this particular case, I'm bringing Supply Pack mainly to support my grenade launcher, which I'm also taking. With the Supply Pack, you now have enough ammo for one of the most powerful weapons in the game, as well as your ultimatum, as well as your arc grenades, which you can basically spam non-stop. Finally, we take something that I find really funny, which is a shield generator relay. Now let's imagine that you have a defense mission or raise the flag objective or something like that where you have to stay at one place for some time. You throw a Tesla Tower, you throw a shield generator over it, you lay beneath your Tesla Tower, and you let them come. Everything that gets shot at you from afar gets stopped by shield generator relay. Anything that manages to cross the line of the shield gets fried by your Tesla Tower, your Arc Blitzer, your ultimatum, your arc grenades, or your grenade launcher. I find this loadout to be so fun. It takes some time to kinda get used to it because it is pretty niche. However, once you get a grasp of how to use all of that stuff, it's just a non-stop roller coaster and you will get addicted really fast. The next loadout has also a pretty specific theme around it. We start with a CE27 Groundbreaker medium armor, which has an engineering kit armor passive. Now, there is no particular reason why I pick this armor for this specific loadout. I just vibe with it. And it also has a really useful perk of increasing your grenade amount, which is always really nice. Now, the specific theme of this loadout that I was talking about earlier is laser, and specifically laser weapons that shoot a continuous beam. So for our primary on this loadout, we are picking the LAS5 Scythe. The Helldivers community has a pretty mixed opinion upon this weapon, but me personally, I love it. It all comes down to how do you use it and what do you pair it with. It also has a modification option to increase the heat sink, which makes reloading almost non-existent. It is a really precise weapon that, in my experience, is extremely easy to use. However, it really shines when you specifically target weak spots, so keep that in mind. Ultimatum remains our secondary for this loadout as well. And for the grenades for this loadout, we've finally come back to the classics. A G123 Thermite. With the armor passive that increases the number of grenades, you get the ability to spam thermites and kill all the tank units across all three factions. Now, obviously for the laser-based loadout, the first stratagem that we are choosing is Orbital Laser. I refuse to do any kind of reasoning about this stratagem. It is the best stratagem in the game alongside Portable Hellbomb. That's it. For the support weapon, we are taking a laser cannon, which is a weapon that gets unjustly overlooked by Helldivers 2 community. It has the capability to kill almost anything in the game, it has unlimited ammo, and it looks freaking cool. What else do you need? Now, some of you may have already predicted that the next stratagem that I will choose will be the Laser Guard Dog. When it doesn't try to kill you or your teammates, it is actually a really decent guard dog. Finally, we are taking Laser Sentry, frankly to keep it stylish. The only issue I have with it, it overheats. However, it does a lot of damage and it is really effective if you position it right. So there you have it. our third loadout. The final loadout that I would like to share with you today is based around melee weapons, and specifically the chainsaw. To start off, we take our S40 Beast of Prey Heavy Armor that increases our melee damage by 40% and has enough protection to let you come close to your enemies and cut them. A primary for this loadout is Scorcher, since it will allow us to not get overwhelmed by small and medium units. Just like all of the previous loadout, we take Ultimatum as our secondary. What a surprise. For our throwable, we take G23 Stun Grenade, which will allow us to stun huge enemies like Hulks and force them to stand still while we are cutting them dead. Now, the first stratagem of this loadout is of course the Defoliation Tool, our primary killing machine for this loadout. Now, since we are wearing a heavy armor and our movement is pretty limited, which is not something that you want to have when you're running a melee build, therefore to increase our mobility we are taking a Warp Pack, which will let us jump in between the enemies, avoid their attacks, and allow us to minimize the damage that they can deal to us. Now, to balance out the meleeness of this loadout, we need to increase the firepower. Therefore, the next stratagem we take is 500 kg Bomb. And to top that off, as well as to have a sort of a rescue button when we need it, we take Eagle Strafing Run, which is really good at clearing your path forward or cut some following. Just like the electricity-based loadout, this one is insanely niche, and it may take a few dives to get used to this loadout. However, when you get a grasp of it, it becomes really, really fun. So it wraps it up for today, folks. I hope you will find these loadouts useful for improving your experience in Helldivers 2, so please, when you try them, share your impressions with me in the comments section. I still have plenty of loadout ideas in the back of my mind, so I will probably keep this thing going. As always, thank you for watching this far. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.